I'm slouched in the passenger seat of Jake's '98 Chevy pickup, a rust-pocked beast that's more duct tape and prayers than reliable transportation. The cracked vinyl seat clings to my jeans like it's got a personal vendetta, the edges frayed and splitting, exposing yellowed foam that smells faintly of mildew. The cab is a claustrophobic mess, reeking of stale coffee from a thermos Jake refilled at a 7-Eleven outside Boise, motor oil from a leak he never fixed, and the sharp, acrid sting of his chain-smoked Camels. The ashtray's a graveyard of cigarette butts, their filters stained yellow, spilling onto the cracked plastic console despite Jake's half-hearted promise to quit after his divorce last spring. He said it was for his health, but I know it's because his ex, Lisa, hated the smell. Ironic, since she's the one who left him gutted, taking their Craftsman bungalow, their rescue mutt, Boomer, and every shred of hope he had left. Empty Monster energy drink cans, their silver and green logos faded from months of rolling around, clatter under my boots with every pothole, a constant reminder of Jake's refusal to sleep. A crumpled map of the Pacific Northwest sprawls across the dash, its edges curling like dead leaves, marked with coffee rings and Jake's scrawled notes for gas stations and diners long since passed. The radio's stuck on a staticky country station, its signal weak out here, spitting out warped fragments of songs. Hank Williams moaning about lost love, Merle Haggard crooning about endless roads, each note distorted, like the music's drowning in the static. Every so often, the signal cuts out entirely, leaving just a low hum that sets my teeth on edge. Jake's been driving for 3 days straight, Denver to Seattle, a 1,200-mile slog to chase a warehouse manager job he heard about through a buddy who probably overstated the pay. It's his last shot, he says, after Lisa's lawyers bled him dry and his old gig at the auto parts store laid him off when the chain went bankrupt. I'm here because I owe him. Jake's been my best friend since we were kids stealing beers from his dad's garage in Aurora, and when he called me 2 weeks ago, voice cracking, begging for company on this trip, I couldn't say no. But looking at him now, I wonder if I made a mistake. His face is a roadmap of ruin, lines carved too deep for a 32-year-old, etched by sleepless nights and court battles, his eyes bloodshot and sunken, like he's staring through the world instead of at it. His dark hair's greasy, shoved under a faded Broncos cap, and his stubble's gone patchy, like he gave up halfway through shaving. He grips a dented thermos of gas station coffee, the kind that tastes like burnt asphalt, steering with one hand while the other trembles slightly, betraying the exhaustion he's fighting. "Almost there, just gotta keep moving," he mutters, his voice hoarse, like he's trying to convince himself he's not unraveling. I see it in the way his shoulders hunch, the way his jaw clenches. He's running on fumes, his heart is battered as this truck, and I'm not sure how much longer he can hold it together. Hell, I'm not sure how much longer I can, sitting here watching him fray, my own nerves shot from the endless road and the weight of his desperation. It's just past dusk on Highway 20 in eastern Oregon, a desolate ribbon of asphalt winding through scrublands so barren it feels like the earth itself gave up and walked away. The landscape's a sea of brittle sagebrush and cracked dirt, dotted with gnarled junipers that look like they're clawing at the sky in despair. The horizon's a faint smudge, barely visible under a sky bruised purple, the first stars flickering like distant warning signals. I'm staring out the windshield, hypnotized by the road's white lines disappearing into the distance when the fog hits, not creeping in like it should, but slamming down like a guillotine, sudden and suffocating. 1 second, the highway stretches out, a lifeline to somewhere. The next, it's gone, swallowed by a thick, gray curtain that smothers the headlights into feeble, glowing halos. The truck slows to a crawl, its engine growling low, the vibration rattling through my seat and into my bones, making my teeth ache. Jake leans forward, his face inches from the windshield, squinting into the void, his breath fogging the glass in quick, uneven bursts. "Crap," he mutters, his voice tight, fraying at the edges like an old rope. "This ain't normal." My chest tightens, a knot of unease twisting into raw, primal fear as the fog presses against the windows, heavy and alive, like it's trying to claw its way inside. It's not just fog, it's too dense, too deliberate, curling in tendrils that seem to writhe with purpose. My pulse hammers in my throat, my mind racing. We're alone out here. No cell signal, no other cars, no help. I fumble for my phone, but the screen's dead. No bars, just a faint static hum when I try to dial. Jake's knuckles are white on the steering wheel, his breath's short and sharp, and I feel my own breath catching, my thoughts spiraling into panic. He's muttering now, half to himself, half to me, debating whether to drive blind and risk sliding into a ditch or pulling over into this God-forsaken nowhere. The dashboard clock glows 8:47 p.m., its green digits mocking us, frozen in time. The radio crackles, a snatch of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, twisting into garbled noise, like the song's being chewed up and spit out before it dies completely, replaced by a hiss that sounds too much like whispers, low, guttural, not quite words but close enough to make my skin crawl. I tell myself it's just static, but my gut screams otherwise. Then, a faint glow flickers ahead through the fog, barely cutting through the gray, a sign, maybe, or something else. Jake eases the truck toward it, the tires crunching on gravel as we pull off the asphalt, the sound muffled, like the fog's eating that too. A gas station looms out of the mist, its edges shimmering unnaturally, like it's not fully anchored to reality. The sight of it sends a shiver down my spine, my skin prickling with a dread I can't name. This place doesn't belong here. It feels like it was ripped from some forgotten corner of the world and dropped in our path. The station is a rotting relic, like something torn from a grainy horror flick I'd watch late at night as a kid, half expecting the monster to crawl out of the screen. A neon sign buzzes Earl's Fuel and Goods, its red and blue letters flickering erratically, some bulbs dead, others twitching like they're fighting to stay lit. Condensation drips from the sign, pooling in the gravel below. But in the dim light, it looks too red, too thick, like blood seeping into the dirt. Two gas pumps stand out front, their red paint flaking into rust. The dials frozen at .29 a gallon, a price so ancient it feels like a taunt, a relic from a world that doesn't exist anymore. The numbers are wrong, impossible, screaming that this place is out of time. The building itself squats low, its peeling white siding hanging in strips like dead skin, curling away from warped wooden beams underneath. The windows glow with a sickly yellow light, pulsing faintly, like the heartbeat of something dying but refusing to quit. I catch a glimpse of a figure inside, moving too slow, too deliberate, its silhouette blurred behind grimy glass, streaked with something dark, grease maybe, or worse. There are no other cars, no other lights, just the fog coiling around the lot, writhing like it's breathing, carrying a stench that hits me like a punch. Ozone, sharp and electric, mixed with a metallic tang that twists my stomach. Blood, rust, and something fouler, like decay left to fester. My hands clench the edge of the seat, my nails digging into the vinyl, and I realize I'm holding my breath, every instinct screaming that we shouldn't be here, that this place is wrong. Jake kills the engine, and silence crashes over me like a wave, swallowing the thud of my heartbeat, the creak of the worn-out vinyl seat beneath me, even the faint electric hum of the neon sign outside. It's not just quiet, it's a void, heavy and oppressive, like the world's holding its breath. I step out of the truck after Jake, the air hitting me like a damp, suffocating shroud, clinging to my skin with a clammy, moldy weight. The stench is worse out here, a nauseating mix of ozone, sharp and electric, and a metallic tang that burns my throat, blood, rust, and something deeper, like the air itself is rotting. My boots crunch on the gravel, but the sound's muted, stolen by the fog, as if this place is greedy for every scrap of noise. Jake rubs the back of his neck, his fingers digging into the tense muscles, his eyes darting across the fog-choked lot, taking in the flickering neon and the shadowed pumps. "Weird place to stop," he mutters, his voice low and trembling, barely holding back the panic I see in the tight set of his jaw. I feel it too, a prickle on my skin, like invisible eyes boring into me from every direction, my gut screaming that we're not alone. My heart pounds so hard it hurts, my breath catching in short, ragged gasps, as every shadow seems to shift, watching, waiting. I glance back at the truck, its familiar bulk barely visible through the fog, and a wave of dread hits me. We're stranded here, miles from anywhere, with no cell signal and no plan beyond Jake's desperate hope that this job in Seattle will save him. We didn't mean to stop here. The truck's gas gauge was hovering near empty, and Jake's been pushing it, refusing to stop since that last dive bar in Idaho where he downed 2 energy drinks and swore we'd make it to the next town. But the fog came out of nowhere, thick and unnatural, forcing us off Highway 20 onto this gravel lot. I've known Jake since we were 13, sneaking smokes behind the bleachers at Lincoln High, back when he was all grins and reckless plans. Now, at 32, he's a ghost of that kid. His divorce from Lisa last spring left him hollow, her lawyers stripping him of their house, their dog, and the auto parts job he'd held for a decade. This trip, this 1,200-mile haul from Denver to Seattle, is his last-ditch effort to start over, chasing a warehouse manager gig he heard about from a cousin who's probably exaggerating the pay. I'm here because he begged me to come, his voice cracking over the phone 2 weeks ago, saying he couldn't do it alone. I owe him. Jake was there when my own life fell apart after college, when I was sleeping on his couch, drowning in student debt and bad decisions. But standing here, in this fog that feels like it's breathing down my neck, I wonder if I've signed up for more than I can handle. We push through the station's door, the bell above it giving a weak, off-key jangle that dies too quickly, swallowed by the same silence that ate the gravel's crunch. Inside, the station is a tomb of decay, the air so thick with dust, mildew, and a sour rot it coats my tongue like spoiled milk, making me gag. The linoleum floor, cracked and yellowed like old teeth, sticks to my boots with a tacky, reluctant grip, each step pulling like I'm wading through tar. Dim fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting a sickly pallor over everything, their flicker sinking with the pulse in my temples. Shelves sag under the weight of faded cans, Cola King and Tasty Taters chips, their labels bleached to ghosts of red and blue, pristine yet untouched, like they've been sitting here since the Kennedy administration, preserved in some cruel joke. A rotary phone sits on the counter, its black plastic cracked, cord tangled in a dusty heap next to a 50s cash register, its keys tarnished green, silent as a grave. A calendar hangs on the wall, its edges curled and yellowed, frozen on June 1963, the grid blank except for a single red X on the 15th, staring at me like an accusation. In the corner, a jukebox hulks, its chrome dull and pitted, no power cord in sight, yet it hums, a low, unnatural throb that pulses in my chest, syncing with my heartbeat in a way that makes my skin crawl. The air feels wrong, too heavy, like it's pressing down on me, and every breath tastes of decay, as if the station itself is exhaling something long dead. Behind the counter stands Earl, tall and gaunt, his frame looming like a scarecrow left too long in a dying field. His skin is like sun-cracked leather, stretched tight over sharp bones, and his name tag, pinned to a grimy flannel shirt, reads Earl in faded embroidery, the threads fraying like his sanity might be. His eyes, pale, almost gray, with pupils that dilate too wide, lock onto me, and my stomach lurches, a wave of nausea hitting as those eyes feel like they're peeling me open, seeing things I've buried deep. "Evening," he rasps, his voice like gravel scraped from a dry well, each word laced with a twisted amusement that makes my blood run cold. Lost in the fog? His lips twitch, not quite a smile, revealing teeth too white, too even, like they were carved from porcelain for a face that doesn't belong. His long, knobby fingers polish a glass, unnervingly clean, gleaming in the dim light. His movements slow and deliberate, like a predator biding its time. I stay close to Jake, close enough to catch the sharp, acrid scent of his nervous sweat, the kind that comes from a man teetering on the edge of breaking. Jake's trying to hold it together, but I see it in the way his hands twitch, the way his shoulders hunch like he's bracing for a blow. "Something like that," he says, forcing a grin that doesn't reach his bloodshot eyes, his voice thin and strained, like he's one wrong word from bolting. "Got coffee?" Earl points to a pot in the corner, its carafe crusted with brown sludge, the brew inside thick as motor oil, shimmering with an unnatural sheen. "Help yourself. No charge," he says, his gaze never leaving us, stripping away layers, exposing fears I didn't know I carried. Failure, loneliness, the yawning void of being forgotten. I feel naked under those eyes, my skin prickling as if he's reading every doubt I've ever had, every night I've lain awake wondering if I'm enough. I follow Jake to the coffee pot, the floor creaking like brittle bones under my boots, each step sending a jolt of unease up my spine. The coffee smells wrong, bitter ash, metal, like blood baked into rust, with a faint undertone of something sweet and sick, like rotting fruit. Jake pours a cup, the liquid sloshing sluggishly, viscous and dark, like it's been sitting there for years. He takes a sip, his face twisting in a wince, his skin paling to a sickly gray. But he says nothing, his hands shaking so bad the coffee splashes over the rim. I don't touch it, can't bring myself to, not with that smell clawing at my throat. I glance out the window, and panic surges like a tidal wave. The fog's so thick it's erased the truck, the lot, everything, leaving only a gray wall pressing against the glass, pulsing like it's alive, like it's trying to push through. My heart's a jackhammer, adrenaline flooding my veins, my breath's shallow and sharp as claustrophobia chokes me. I feel trapped, caged in this decaying husk of a station, the walls seeming to lean inward, the air growing colder with every second. "How long's this fog usually last?" Jake asks, his voice cracking, trying to sound casual but failing miserably, the words trembling like he's on the verge of tears. I watch Earl, and for a split second, his eyes glow, not reflect, but glow, like a cat's caught in headlights, a sickly yellow-green that pierces the dim light. My blood runs cold, my legs itching to run, but my feet feel glued to the floor. "Depends," Earl drawls, leaning closer, the counter groaning under his weight, the sound like a dying animal. "Hours, days, forever, for some." The words hit like a fist, the air chilling so fast my breath fogs in front of me, visible in the dim light. "You ever wonder where you are, son? Really are?" His voice slithers into my head, low and intimate, like he's whispering secrets I'm not meant to hear. My mind spirals. Is this real? Am I losing it? Fear exploding into chaos, my thoughts fracturing as Jake lets out a laugh, a thin, nervous sound that's more a sob, masking the scream I know is building in his throat. I want to grab him, drag him out, but my body feels heavy, like the station itself is holding me here, its decay seeping into my bones. We stumble backward toward the door, my pulse roaring in my ears like a freight train, drowning out everything but the frantic thud of my own heart. Jake's forced grin has crumbled into a grimace, his lips trembling, his bloodshot eyes wild with a terror that mirrors my own. His face, already gaunt from 3 days of driving and a year of heartbreak, looks like it's unraveling, the lines around his mouth twitching as if they might tear. The air inside the station feels thicker now, rancid with mildew and that sour rot that clings to my tongue, coating my throat like I've swallowed something alive and festering. The bell above the door jangles weakly as we push through, its chime choked and off-key, swallowed by the oppressive silence that waits outside. The fog is heavier now, a suffocating wall of gray that seeps into my clothes, soaking my flannel shirt and jeans with a clammy, oily dampness that smells of decay, rotting leaves, rusted metal, and a sickly sweet undertone like meat left too long in the sun. It's not just in my lungs, it's on my skin, crawling into my pores, the metallic stench so thick it chokes me, burning my nostrils and making my eyes water. We scramble into the truck, my boots slipping on the gravel, now slick with a greasy film that wasn't there before, like the ground itself is sweating something foul. Jake fumbles the keys, his hands shaking so badly they slip twice, the metal jangling against the steering column, each clink sharp and desperate. His fingers are slick with sweat, leaving smudges on the keys, and I catch the acrid scent of his fear, sharp and chemical, mixing with the cab's familiar reek of stale coffee and cigarette ash. The engine sputters, coughs, and dies. Again, each failure a gut punch that tightens the knot in my chest. "Damn it!" Jake screams, slamming his fists against the wheel, his voice breaking into raw, choking sobs that tear through the cab. His face is a mask of panic, tears cutting clean tracks through the grime caked on his cheeks from days without a proper wash, his stubble patchy and matted with sweat. I glance back at the station, and my breath catches. Earl stands in the doorway, a still silhouette, his gaunt frame blending into the peeling siding like he's part of the building itself, a fixture of its decay. The neon sign flickers violently, its red and blue letters stuttering, and for a split second I swear it reads "Last Stop" in jagged, bleeding script before snapping back to Earl's Fuel and Goods, the words dripping with slimy condensation that pools in the gravel like coagulated blood. My sanity teeters, my vision swimming as the world feels like it's tilting under me. I fumble for Jake's phone on the console, but it's dead. No signal, no bars, just a faint static hum pulsing through the speaker, echoing that cursed jukebox inside. My own phone's no better, its screen black, the battery drained despite being fully charged an hour ago. The air in the cab is freezing now, my breath fogging the window in quick, shallow bursts, the cold biting into my fingers as I lock the doors with trembling hands. The fog coils tighter around us, its tendrils curling against the glass like fingers, and whispers start, faint at first, overlapping, not human, hissing my name, Jake's name, slithering into my skull like worms burrowing through rot. They're not words, not exactly, but they carry meaning, hunger, malice, a promise of something eternal and wrong. My heart's pounding so hard it hurts, panic clawing at my chest, my lungs burning as I try to breathe through the suffocating stench of ozone and blood. The station's lights dim, then flare, casting shadows that twist and writhe across the lot, shapes moving just out of sight. Tall, angular figures with jagged outlines, flickering like bad TV static, their edges glitching as if they're not fully here. I catch glimpses, long limbs, too many joints, eyes like pinpricks of light. But when I turn, they're gone, leaving only greasy streaks on the windows, smeared like fingerprints dipped in oil. Earl steps closer, his boots silent on the gravel, not even disturbing the slick, oozing surface. His voice slithers into my head, not through my ears, but deeper, a command that's smooth and sharp, dripping with a hunger that makes my skin crawl. You can't leave yet. It's not a suggestion, it's a chain, wrapping around my thoughts. Fog's got you. This place, a snag in the fabric, a limbo between worlds. You stopped, so now you're mine. His eyes blaze through the fog, not just glowing, but burning, an abyss of ancient, ravenous intent that feeds on my terror. My heart's a sledgehammer, my vision blurring, the edges of my sight fraying like old film. Jake floors the gas, the truck lurching forward into the gray void. The road gone, the world a chaotic blur of mist that presses against the windows like a living thing. His sobs fill the cab, raw and broken, his hands slick with sweat, slipping on the wheel as he screams, "This can't be real!" His voice cracks, a plea to himself as much as to me, his mind splintering under the weight of what we're seeing. Shapes emerge from the fog, tall, skeletal things with glowing eyes, their forms glitching, limbs bending at wrong angles, claws scraping the windows with a sound like nails on a chalkboard, leaving greasy, rancid streaks that smell of sulfur and decay. Time melts, minutes, hours, I can't tell. The gas gauge stays frozen, but the odometer spins backward, numbers blurring into a chaotic whirl, mocking my grip on reality as my thoughts fracture, each one sharp and jagged. The station reappears, its neon a scream in the dark, the letters now pulsing with a sickly green hue, dripping with slimy condensation that hisses as it hits the ground, releasing a stench like rotting meat and spoiled milk. Jake slams the brakes, tires screeching, kicking up gravel in a wave of that putrid odor so thick it coats my throat, making me gag. "No, no," he wails, tears carving glistening tracks through the grime on his face, his body shaking violently, his pleas incoherent, a babble of fear and despair. His hands claw at the door handle as if he could escape the truck, the fog, this place. Earl's by the pumps now, his grin too wide, showing too many teeth, sharp and glinting like broken glass, promising oblivion in a way that makes my blood freeze. I try the passenger door, locked, not by me, the handle cold and slick, like it's coated in something alive. My hands are numb, my fingers tingling as if they're dissolving, reality fraying at the edges like a worn-out photograph. Jake drives again, the truck lunging forward, but the loop repeats, each cycle worse. The station looms closer, its walls seeming to pulse, the whispers growing deafening. A vicious chorus chanting our names, mine, Jake's, over and over. A litany of malice that claws at my mind. I'm screaming now, my throat raw, my voice hoarse and ragged. Thrashing against the seatbelt that feels like it's tightening, cutting into my chest. The cab reeks of our sweat, our fear, mingling with the truck's stale cigarette ash and the fog's metallic decay. A stench so thick it's a physical weight, pressing me down, drowning me. On what feels like the final loop, Jake stops, his spirit shattered, his body a trembling wreck as he stumbles out of the truck into the fog that seems to devour the Chevy's rusted frame, its metal hissing like acid eating through flesh, the sound sharp and unnatural, like the truck itself is screaming. I try to stay put, my hands clawing at the seatbelt, but my legs move against my will, driven by some unseen force, as if the fog has wrapped invisible chains around my bones. My boots sink into the gravel, but it's not gravel anymore. It's soft, yielding, like rotting flesh, oozing cold, viscous sludge that clings to my soles, reeking of sulfur, decay, and something sweeter, like diseased fruit festering in a forgotten cellar. Each step squelches, the sludge bubbling up around my boots, icy tendrils seeping through the leather, chilling my feet until they feel numb, like they're dissolving into the ground. The fog is a living thing now, thick and heavy, coiling around me like a serpent, its metallic stench, blood, rust, and rancid grease, choking my lungs, burning my throat until I gag, my eyes streaming with tears that feel too thick, too warm, like they're bleeding out of me. Earl's gone, but the station's door gapes open, a jagged maw spilling yellow light that pulses like infected pus, its glow beckoning with a sick promise. The whispers sharpen into a chorus, rest, answers, eternity. Their voices barbed and seductive, slithering into my mind like slimy threads, wrapping tighter, tugging at my soul with a hunger that makes my chest ache. I try to scream, but my voice is a raw, ragged rasp, drowned by the fog's weight. And my feet drag forward despite my terror, each step heavier, like I'm wading through a swamp of despair. Jake's ahead, his form blurring into the gray, his silhouette fracturing, leaving greasy smears on the ground that shimmer with an oily sheen, like the earth is bleeding something alive and wrong. The fog fills my lungs with mold and blood, clenching like a fist around my heart, squeezing until I can barely breathe, my vision swimming with black spots as panic claws at my core, whispering that I'll never escape this place. I've known Jake since we were kids, back when we'd sneak into the old quarry behind Aurora, throwing rocks and dreaming of lives bigger than our dead-end town. He was the one who pulled me through when my mom died, when I was 17 and drowning in grief, showing up with a six-pack and a promise that we'd get out together. Now he's a broken man, gutted by Lisa's betrayal, the divorce that took his home, his dog Boomer, and his job at the auto parts store, a casualty of corporate cuts. This trip to Seattle, this 1,200-mile gamble for a warehouse job, was supposed to be his redemption, but it's become our prison. I came because he begged, his voice cracking over a late-night call, saying he couldn't face the road alone, not after everything. But now, as I watch him stumble into the fog, his sobs swallowed by the mist, I feel the weight of my own failures, flunking out of college, the string of dead-end jobs, the nights I've spent wondering if I'm just a shadow trailing Jake's light. The fog knows it too. It presses closer, its whispers hissing my doubts, my fears, my name, in a voice that's mine and not mine, promising to unravel me entirely. Suddenly, I'm standing on Highway 20, the fog gone, the sky cold and clear, a sterile blue that feels too sharp, too empty, like it's been scrubbed of life. The asphalt is cracked, its edges jagged like broken bones, littered with filth that makes my stomach churn. Swollen cigarette butts pulsing with wriggling mites, their tiny legs glinting in the starlight. Shattered bottles crusted with dried blood and matted fur, as if something was torn apart here. Plastic bags flapping like tattered ghosts, stained with greasy smears that glisten like rancid fat. No fog, but the air is heavy, thick with the reek of stagnant water, rotting meat, and a sour decay that coats my tongue, making me gag. The ground weeps oily stains, shimmering like bile under the faint starlight, each puddle rippling with a slow, deliberate pulse, as if the earth itself is breathing something malignant. The station's gone, but its scars remain, etched into the landscape like a wound that won't heal. Rusted pump bases crumbling into dust, slick with tar that hisses and bubbles on contact, releasing a stench like burning flesh. A shard of chrome bumper, corroded and jagged, dripping black ooze that pools in the dirt, thick and sluggish like it's alive. A cracked mirror half buried in the mud, its surface reflecting not the sky, but a gray void. A nothingness that pulls at my eyes, threatening to drag me in. My screams, Jake's sobs, they're silenced, but the air hums with a sick drone, like a swarm of flies trapped in a jar, vibrating with the stench of ozone, blood, and decay. A neon glimmer flickers in the distance, a grimy pulse coated in dead moths, their brittle wings stuck to the light like a grotesque mosaic. It illuminates potholes filled with oily water, floating with clumps of matted hair and sludge that writhes faintly as if alive. Rusted nails and shards of glass jut from the ground like diseased teeth, crusted with something dark and sticky. A pulsing beneath the asphalt, like the earth is breathing rot, each exhale sending a shiver through my boots. The neon twists, the sign morphing to last stop, its letters dripping greasy wax that sizzles as it hits the ground, releasing a stench like burning hair. Then it fades, blinking out like a dying star, leaving only darkness. No trace of us remains, just a dented monster can, its silver surface slick with filth, rolling in the breeze. A torn fragment of our Pacific Northwest map, crusted with mold that pulses faintly, like it's breathing. A single bootlace, stiff with dried blood, tangled in the weeds. My heart's still pounding, but it feels distant, like it's not mine anymore. The highway stretches on, its scars weeping ichor, a viscous black that glimmers with malevolent intent, ready to swallow the next soul who dares to stop. My fears, failure, loneliness, the void of being forgotten, are ground into its putrid, eternal grime, as if the road itself has claimed them, claimed us, forever.